Happy Tuesday, everybody. All right. 17th day of September, 2024. Good to have you back. 600 ESPN El Paso, River Oaks Properties, Schoolyard Sports Studios. The aforementioned River Oaks Properties, Schoolyard Sports Studios. In fact, speaking of Schoolyard Sports, Lane's coming back tomorrow. Can't wait for him. Swear to God, he's just... Lane Frank is a barrel of laughs. I love him. He's the greatest. So we'll find somebody to pick against him. I'm adding up the picks from this past week, by the way. And I'll say this. Adrian, it looks like, as I've reviewed all the selections, you definitely got the best of Lane.
Wow, really? I should have taken the Atlanta Falcons like I picked on this show against Lane Frank. But I'm happy. I think I only lost that Colts game. That was the one that I knew right off the bat I missed. So I'm happy I won.
Yeah, the only, let's put it this way. You disagreed with Lane on 4 games, okay? Jets, Titans, you lost that one because he took the Titans.
Oh, that's right.
But you had the Vikings over the 49ers. You beat them there. You had the Seahawks over the Patriots. You beat them there. You had the Cardinals over the Rams.
Yeah.
How about that? How about picking against your team and beating Lane in that regard? That was pretty big. So
I don't know if you've watched the Rams, Steve. It's like a hospital bed over there in L.A. I mean, they don't have anybody playing right now. They're all injured. And the Rams are on like a 9-game win streak against the Cardinals. So shout out to Will Hernandez and the Cardinals, who got a big win.
Shout out also to Marvin Harrison Jr., who balled out big time against the Rams after everybody was worried about him for his lack of production in the first week of the season.
Yeah, we need to hear from Jeff Erickson on this one on the fantasy implications and upside that Marvin Harrison Jr. could have. He made a lot of fantasy owners really excited about his performance against the Rams. And then on the flip side, you got Nakua going out and also Kupp on IR for the Rams. So tough goings for the Los Angeles Rams here.
Yeah, I feel bad for Matt Stafford. He's got nobody to throw the football to right now. Who's going to be his number one target?
Yeah, I would actually, this is an unpopular take. I might go with Stetson Bennett or Jimmy Garoppolo for these next 2 or 3 games because Stafford's been getting crushed lately, man. If you watch these, he's like their only option. He's getting killed. He has no offensive line. Maybe they go like some 1930s like wishbone offense or something like that just to get some run game going. But I'm bummed out as a Rams fan. I think the season starts in week 6 to see whether or not these guys return.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's just it's been bad. It's been really, really bad, and I don't know if it's going to get any better anytime soon. Could get worse before it gets better. That's for sure. By the way, we went earlier today to UTEP. Spoke to about 3 or 4 different players and Coach Walden as they get ready for Colorado State, and. There were some fun players. Like I was excited about talking to. I think we had wasn't it Nick Diamond on the show?
Yeah, Nate really Diamond.
Cool. Nate Diamond. Nate was good. By the way, Nate's an interesting character. I thought he was from Louisiana. I didn't even realize he's from Texas.
Yeah, Missouri City, Texas. He has that. He kind of has that southern. Draw?
He has a drawl.
Yeah, I like it.
Southern drawl. Yeah.
I really enjoyed him. I called him the Cal Wallerstedt of this team, not just because he's a white linebacker, but because he's like an older veteran who really was never playing a lot, but emerged onto the scene just nicely. He's going to start every game for this team as long as he's healthy.
Hey, Brian Urlacher's a white linebacker, and he's in the Hall of Fame, right? So, I mean, there's something to be said. Shouldn't matter what color you are, what position you play. If you can ball, you can ball. But yes, you're right about Diamond. He is, he's emerging on this defense a little bit.
Wallerstedt last year was a killer. I mean, right behind Tyrese Knight. Those two led the team basically in tackles every single game. So loved Cal Wallerstedt. Merged onto the scene last year. This year, it's Nate Diamond in that linebacker group.
That's true. That is true. So Adrian had a chance to post a lot of the videos from earlier today up on his Twitter and X feed. And by the way, I asked the question about Cade just because it hadn't been asked yet. It had not been asked. I was curious about it since week 1, and I wanted to find out if there's any what the situation would be to try to get Cade McConnell in games. I mean, and it's so interesting. Like, even after 3 weeks, there are certain UTEP fans that believe that Cade should get his opportunity. to be with this group and this coaching staff. And there are others that are the exact opposite who say, no, Skylar Locklear is a quarterback whose skill set is made for this offense. He needs time. He needs to develop. He's the guy. So I find it interesting that, it's a completely split subject right now. Like, remember when we did this poll before the season started and we asked our fans who should start at quarterback? 75% went to Cade. And now I think if we ran that exact same poll, it would be very close to 50-50. I really do. I feel like Cade has his supporters in his camp, Skylar has his supporters in his camp, and Miner fans are split because some believe that Locklear is the guy with his mobility and his speed and what he brings to the table there, and others look at Cade and say, look, he won a few games last year on a bad football team, and he won them on the road. So why wouldn't you give him an opportunity, since he's won college games, to at least win with this group and this new coaching staff? So I find that a fascinating subject, which is one of the reasons I wanted to ask, today, head coach Scotty Walden, what would be the circumstances that would have you put Cade McConnell into a game, insert him as your quarterback?
Yeah, and he didn't really answer the question. I mean, he answered it not really answering it. Mm-hmm. So I would say, so if you're very pro Skylar Locklear, you're going to say, hey, he needs more game action. He needs more starts under his belt to really see what you have in that kind of quarterback. You could say, hey, the 0-3 start is not his fault, that every part of the offense that looks good so far is, partly because of what he does. And you might argue, hey, you get 3 years of Skylar Locklear. Yeah. It's this year, next year, maybe even the year after that, if you're looking to build this program into what this coaching staff hopes it to be. On the flip side with Cade, those pro-Cade people out there will argue, well, Cade can win now. He's already won it last year. He's already shown it at the highest level. And I wonder, Steve, just at what point, I mean, we're already getting into the fourth game of the year. They have no plans to look at Cade at any other time. At what point does Cade or does the coaching staff think, well, let's preserve the year of eligibility there and, don't not even look to Cade if something were to happen come mid-October or come November? They would look to somebody like J.P. Pickles or Shea Smith over a veteran like Cade McConnell and allow him to preserve the year of eligibility and go elsewhere, if he chooses to do so.
Does Cade actually have a redshirt year?
I don't think so. I don't think he does. So I don't know how that works.
He would lose his year. In other words, if you have already exhausted your redshirt season and you just don't play as a redshirt junior, then it's not like you get another year to play. You just will then be next year a redshirt senior someplace.
That's true. It would be a fifth-year senior because he has done his year of redshirting. I think that was his first year, so not last year, the year before that here at UTEP.
Yeah, that's right, because his first year he redshirted as a sophomore. Last year he was a redshirt sophomore for UTEP. This year he's a redshirt junior. Next year he'll be a redshirt senior. So he'll have 1 year of eligibility left after this, no matter where he goes. Look, here's the thing, okay, and I'll put it very simply. This is the way I look at it. If you are not worried about winning or competing in CUSA and you just want to develop a young quarterback, keep Skylar in. I mean, that's the bottom line. Locklear should be your guy if you really don't care about winning football games this year and it's more about just development, learning a new system. If you actually want to take a shot at winning, and I'm not here to tell you that Cade will be able to win where Skylar can't. I can't see to the future. I don't know that. All I know is Cade has won here before. He has experience in a college football FBS system and has shown the ability to win games on the road, for that matter. So you want to know that's the only reason I bring this up. Is he has 6 games of experience under his belt, and he's won 2 of them, which means he's 2-4, which means Skylar Locklear would have to go 2 out of his next 3 to have the same record that Cade has after his 6 games last year. And I don't see Skylar Locklear winning 2 of his next 3 games. So, again, it just comes down to it. And you know what? Cade might get an opportunity, and maybe he loses too. And if he doesn't win, and you've had, Cade take a shot and he hasn't been able to get it done, and Skyler takes a shot and he doesn't get it done, then maybe you go back to Skyler. Or maybe you go back to Shea Smith or J.P. Pickles or somebody else. But I guess my biggest thing is this. 3 games into the season, I don't want to see UTEP pack it in. I just don't want to see UTEP pack it in. And quite frankly, I don't have confidence right now that Skyler Locklear can win football games. I just don't. I haven't seen it. He has not been able to lead an offense for 4 quarters and win a football game. Maybe he will this weekend in Fort Collins against Colorado State. Or maybe he will next weekend at home against, or whenever they come back home. It's not next weekend, it's in October when they have their weeknight game. I think it's on a Thursday against Sam Houston State coming off the bye. Maybe it happens then. But guess what? He couldn't beat an FCS team. He hasn't been able to win the other 2 games. So why all of a sudden is he going to be able to win this weekend? There's nothing that leads me to believe he can win a football game yet because he hasn't done it. Cade has. Therefore, for me, personally, I'm competitive. I want to see this team win. I'm not ready to just pack it up and say, let's let all the kids play and develop the team and see how this group goes. I'm not there yet. Maybe I'll be there in a couple of weeks. Maybe I'll be there in a month. As of September 17th, nope, not even close to being there right now. And therefore, Adrian, after what I've seen in 3 weeks, give me Cade McConnell right now because at least I know he's got a shot to win a football game.
In the summer, the big thing that was coming from the coaching staff was they were going to look for a quarterback who could score points and lead the offense downfield, somebody who's going to be a leader. And you know what? In the first 3 games of the season, take the record away, take the 0-3 start away from Skyler. The other side to this is they're not scoring enough points. 13.7 points per game. That's bottom 5 in all the country right now in terms of scoring offense. They have the bottom 5 worst red zone offense as well. They're not executing and scoring touchdowns. They're 3 of 8 in red zone touchdowns on the season so far. So if you're not scoring points, and this is the standard that you set in the summer, you're either going against what you wanted and falling in love with a quarterback right here in Skyler Locklear, or you just never had this battle that was going to come in to begin with. And that's what it really feels like right now.
Lines are ringing. Quarter past. 505-6009. That is our telephone number today. 505-6009. Bernie Olivas will be back in our 5 o'clock hour for the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl watch. Excited to have Bernie and pick games and update you on the latest that we have, relating to the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. So that's going to be coming up here on the show today. And right now, as lines keep ringing in, let's do this. Let's go to Charlie 1. Let's get our first traffic update. Your phone calls next as we continue. It's 600 ESPN El Paso. Back here on Sports Talk as we continue. Always fun when we had a chance to talk to Marky Ramone here a few weeks ago when he was in El Paso. Right now I've got 2 calls to get to. We're talking UTEP football to begin the program. Let's get right to it. One line open. 505-6009, our telephone number. Rick is going to be first up here at 19 past the hour. How you doing, Rick?
I'm doing great. How about you, Steve?
Doing fine. Appreciate the phone call.
Yes, a season ticket holder for like 30 years or so. And I'm like you. I don't think we should pack it in yet. I'm with you on Cade. I think he needs to play this game at Colorado State. Probably won't, but I mean, he should. And let's see what he can do. And another concern I had was the thing about the not using those tight ends they're using them as blockers, probably because they're a little undersized on the offensive line, but and defensive line too. Yeah. But I wish they'd throw a little bit more. I was expecting a Scotty offense that was going to have the defense defend the whole field, but it's not looking that way at this point.
Well, let's put it this way: they've gone with the 3 down linemen, and tried that. In fact, what's really interesting is this week, I don't know if you noticed this, but on the Orange Swarm defense, there's 4 linemen now. They're going with 2 defensive ends, a nose tackle, and a defensive tackle, with 3 linebackers and 4 defensive backs. So,
interesting.
I am wondering if after the first 3 games, maybe now they're going to a 4-3 and they're ditching the 3, the 3-3-5. So that is kind of an interesting situation against Colorado State to keep an eye on.
Yes, I mean, I remember when we tried that 3-3-5 with Hosea Lewis, I believe, and it didn't work. And especially with the size of our linemen, I think they need to have a little bit more beef in there to stop the run, because that's what they're all doing. All 3 teams have done the same thing to us.
Yep, run them down. That's exactly. So, well, all I can tell you is this. Colorado State will be interesting, Rick, and these next few games are going to be interesting. We already know the situation, but I've watched enough Conference USA. I'm not impressed with this conference. We said it before the season started. It's a down league. So, you know what? Yes. There's no reason why UTEP can't get out there in the rest of conference play and win some football games.
I agree 100%. If I can ask a second question?
Of course.
On the what's happened to the Chihuahuas? I mean, they have looked awful the last 2 or 3 years. They seem like they don't have the pitching anymore.
Yeah, here's what I think is going on. You want to know what I think it is? Is that they've essentially brought in veterans that have been around a long time to kind of be placeholders at the AAA level, so that they can, they're guys that can step in if they need to. They're kind of insurance policies, but you just haven't seen enough young guys on the way up like they've built, because they've traded them all. Look at what the Padres have done. They've taken their best young prospects and shipped them off to try to, and the results are there. I mean, San Diego is a playoff team. It's the best year they've had in a long time, and it's fun to watch. And there have been some Chihuahuas that have gone up, but for the most part, the makeup is different than we saw the first few years. They're a veteran club, and what you're seeing now with El Paso is a bunch of guys in their late 20s to early to mid 30s that are kind of, veterans that have been around a long time that are just there in case. I feel like that's the situation, and maybe because of that, and the pitching, look, the best pitching they had, Matt Waldron, got called up and spent most of the season in San Diego before they just sent him back down. So for the most part, it's just a bunch of arms that are kind of like just taking a place in the rotation more than anything else, as opposed to looking as they're going up to San Diego, if that makes sense.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that.
All right, Rick, talk to you, man. Thanks for the phone call. Great stuff as we keep things moving. Here is Minor Eddie Mack, who joins us on the show. I haven't spoken to Minor Eddie Mack in a little while right now. Good to have you back, Eddie Mack. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. How about you guys?
Hey, we're doing good. How are things in Minor world for you?
Good.
Good.
I mean, I'm a diehard supporter. I go to the games. I watch all the games when they're out of town. I give them everything I got.
That's all you can ask, man. They need 50,000 just like you, and if they have that, they'll be in good shape.
Well, this is a very critical game coming up here. Think about it. I'm going to make a prediction at the end of my statements here, but this is a very critical game, because if you lose, I definitely think this amount of pressure on the coaching staff, which I like, but there'll be a lot of pressure if they stick with that quarterback. There's going to be a lot of pressure to win. I think this is a very winnable game, especially the way that defense was coming on last week. I think the defense is just going to get better and better and give UTEP a chance to win games, even with the fact that they're still having a lot of problems scoring. But I think this is a winnable game. I'm going to make a prediction for Saturday's game.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
So if the defense can have one takeaway and the offense can only have one turnover, we'll win.
Fair enough. Listen, nobody needs this win more than the team, Skyler, the whole staff. I mean, they all need it. They need this win. And I'll tell you right now, if Skylar Locklear goes out and beats Colorado State, we're not talking about the quarterback situation as much as we're right now because he's got his big win. He's got and it's a good win. You beat Colorado State from the Mountain West on the road. That's terrific. That'll settle down all this stuff. But until then, as performances are it's just again inconsistent at best, filled with highs and lows, and not being able to really take advantage. That's why there's so much talk, and there's losses. So there's so much talk about this right now early on.
Well, I think this is a winnable game. I think I like the intensity and the opportunities they had in the last game. I do think the timing of the quarterback and his receivers or the precision of those passes is still off.
Agreed.
I think there was a lot of opportunities, and the passes were either short or they were just off. And so, but let's see what happens. I mean, we don't want to go the whole season going through an experimental strategy here.
No, I think this team is better than that. I really do, although some will disagree with me. But remember, there's no Torrey Horton, and he's their best receiver. So he's out, and they're still 9.5-point favorites over UTEP. And that's without their best player. So, but you want to know something? The truth is this, Minor Eddie Mac. Despite the improvements last week from the defense, there is nothing the offense has shown me yet to think that they can go on the road to Fort Collins and beat Colorado State. I wish I was wrong. I wish I was more like you, but I haven't seen it enough yet. I've seen flashes, but to me the flashes are not enough to show they can do it for 4 quarters. Hell,
well,
I'd take 3 quarters at this point.
Well, the key for me is really the defense surging and keeping the game within an acceptable competitive level where they can go into the fourth quarter and have a chance to at least win the game. That's to me is the key. And that's why I say the defense needs at least one takeover. But I'm going to say something a little controversial, and I just hope that we're not in a situation where we have a marriage between the coach and the quarterback, because I feel like we've been down that road before.
Yeah, we were just down that road with Gavin Hardison and Dana Dimmel. 110% we were down that road.
And before that, Kyle Oxley and Dana Dimmel.
That's true. I mean, look, and this is the facts. Coaches have their favorites. Cade McConnell never sees the field, Minor Eddie Mac, if 3 quarterbacks don't get injured in the same game. He's just joining us the whole year, having a good time as the 4th stringer and a member of the radio show. That's what he was going to be. And then all of a sudden, he got thrust into a completely unexpected situation. But this is different because of the 4 quarterbacks in camp, he's the one with the experience. Nobody else had the experience. Every game for Skylar is a new situation for him. He's learning on the job. Cade had that last year. So that's the biggest difference. And you're right. I'm not surprised. In fact, we expected this. You really think a quarterback that's been redshirted the last year and the year before was signed to play at Austin Peay is going to follow his head coach to UTEP without any kind of assurance that he's going to get the job? Of course it's going to happen. We all knew that.
Well,
so
he's been given his opportunity. I thought that Coach put Cade in the first game against Nebraska. Is that correct?
He played 3 series is what he played, a total of 3 series. 2 in the first half and 1 at the very end of the game is what he played.
But he had a pick, right?
He did. He threw a pick. That's correct. Threw a pick in the second quarter, which to be honest, didn't help his case. That's for sure. He doesn't throw that pick. It's maybe a different situation here today. Who knows?
There you go, my friend. Let's see what happens Saturday.
All right. Appreciate it.
It was good to hear from you all.
Hey, you called in. Good to hear you. Don't think,
Good to hear from you.
Minor Eddie Mac, as much as we'd like to thank you and for that comment, you're the one that called in. We didn't call you. You called us. So thank
you for being a guest.
Yes, appreciate that. Keep it up, man. Keep it up. All right. That's hilarious. Approaching the bottom of the hour. I know we've got SportsCenter next with ESPN little Sebastian Perez Novato, who's going to be back with us. But give me your take on that phone call, what you just had a chance to hear.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting that he calls this a must-win when I've basically put this one in pen since the loss to Southern Utah. This is going to be a loss, guys. I mean, come on, Saturday, let's be realistic. This is a team who's in Colorado State who's going to contend for a bowl game, going to probably be atop the Mountain West. UTEP's not winning this game, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close. I think the line 9.5, maybe that's a little too low for what this game could end up being. I just don't know if UTEP's going to score points, man. They got to get like a special teams touchdown or a defensive touchdown for me to believe that this team is going to win.
Yeah, they do. And by the way, more than one offensive touchdown would be nice.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Gotta
not have to
guys.
rely on your field goal kicker.
So true. All right, we'll come to Cruz. We got two lines available, 505-6009, right after this Sports Center update from Sebastian Perez Novato. Hey, that is SPN giving us the lowdown right now as we continue 32 past the hour on the program. All right, I got two calls to get to, one line available. Saw this tweet from Adrian at Enemy Win the number 3. I think this will be Skyler's last game. If he doesn't play well, it'll be Cade the rest of the way. That's from, again, Adrian at Enemy Win the number 3. Esteban, Steve Kaplowitz. Oh, I know he's serious because he throws my last name in that tweet. That means he means business. On Friday afternoon, September 6th, you had Marky Ramone in the studio. So I tweeted the name of my favorite Ramones song, I Want to Be Sedated. By the way, it's I Want to Be Sedated, not I Want to Be Sedated. It's I Want to Be Sedated. So there we go. If it's your favorite song of all time, get it right. I can't believe you blew me off and failed to address my tweet to Marky.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Sorry, Stefan. That's great. That's what he gets.
That's the funniest. That's the greatest tweet of all time. He's blaming me for something that happened 11 days ago when I failed to mention it to Marky Ramone.
That's why we haven't heard from him in a while.
Should I let us step on in on the secret or just keep it quiet?
No, keep it quiet. Keep
Should
it quiet.
I?
Yes, keep it quiet. Sorry, Esteban.
All right.
Couldn't get to your question.
All right, let's get back to it. Let's keep things moving. 505-6009. Here's Cruz, who joins us next on the program. Cruz, what's happening, man? Hang on, Cruz. Let me punch you up, in fact. Jeez. There we go. I need, you know what I need? I need like something that should just break the phones. Something that presses so hard on line 2 that I could basically push the button through the console to make sure we punch up the right calls.
When I was on Minor Talk, I realized your pain, but I think I was just like kind of going through it too, Steve. So I was like, all right, let's make this happen. This is ridiculous. Those phones are bad.
It's unbelievable. That's because these phones are from, what year were you saying? You were born in 98?
96.
96. These phones are probably from 92 when SportsTalk first came on the air with John Teicher and Duke. And actually, it was Bob Fields in those days. No, Jeff Lindbergh in 92.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You had conference, record, mute on this phone? Wow.
Yeah, a lot of interesting buttons I've never heard of. All right. Yeah, record. When was the last time you could actually record anything on these phones? Cruz, what's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, not much. I'm doing okay, bro. Hey, I'm going to say, what I said before. We need to get bigger in this division where UTEP's at. You got a lot bigger players who can do what all these smaller players. They can be just as quick, just as fast. And our lines, the offensive and defensive lines, they're getting wore out by the fourth quarter because these other teams have bigger players.
Yeah, and I mean, that's true. Look, bro, here's the deal. I mean, you got a 6'4", 6'5", 275-pound right tackle. No, you need about a 6'6", 6'7", 330-pound right tackle is what you need. But unfortunately, that's kind of where they're at right now. And then you look at the rest of the line up front on the offensive side, 6'3", 330, 6'2", 305, 6'3", 305, 6'3", 305. Again, 300 pounds plus on the line is good, but you need 6'5", 6'6", 6'7 players rather than 6'2", 6'3. But we've said it before. They're undersized. That's just the reality of this team and the way they're built right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can't sustain drives because we're undersized. Even though they may be strong and good athletes, these bigger guys will just wear you out. I played football in high school, and I've seen this firsthand. And I think Cade should also get a chance, get a good look at him. Let's find out really how how he's performing in the games. Like you said, he won some games last year, and they were away from home. So he has won, and we need to give him a good look.
Well, again, I don't know if that's going to happen this year. It might take an injury to Skyler, if that even happens, to get Cade into the lineup. I mean, reality is, guys, you might not see Cade McConnell this entire season. It's very possible. And if things go south and they decide later in the year to abandon the Skyler Locklear project, then you might see Shea Smith or J.P. Pickles before you see Cade McConnell, which could be another reality of this season. So appreciate it, Cruz. Let's go to Joel, who's next up on the show. Joel, how are you?
Hey, you're doing good, Steve. But if that happens, there's going to be a lot of players going into the portal, and that's what we don't want. But anyway, something else that I noticed watching the game is the receiver's body language when the throws weren't on target. I don't know if anybody else noticed that. It's almost like the receivers know there's better throwers on the team.
Well, let's put it this way. If the receivers with their body language is starting to show that, I don't expect an uprising to happen anytime soon, not as far as this coaching staff is concerned, because they do love Skyler Locklear and what they're doing. But, Adrian, did you also pick up on what Joel was talking about?
This is a great point by Joel. And actually, I thought I was wrong. Like, I'm not the body language doctor, Steve, but I was watching it on the sideline. I was just like, something's off. And now that Joel says it, I feel validated. So I should have actually stood on my take a little bit more on that. I did not like the body language on the sideline. The third pick, go back and rewind it on ESPN Plus. The third interception that could have been called against UTEP, which ended up coming back because of the roughing the passer penalty. That body language was awful by the receivers there.
All right.
There's a couple of throws that hit the receiver's feet, and you could tell the receiver just couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I'll say this. Again, we've talked about the good and the bad for Skyler. The good, his speed, his elusiveness, and the way he can get out and his mobility. Also, he throws a nice little out pattern, the quick passes. I mean, he's been accurate on those. But again, that's the one-step, two-step drop, quick throws. But there are no intermediate passes, and the deep ball leaves a lot to be desired. So that's difficult. Yeah. When your passing game is one-dimensional, it makes it tough, especially when you're trying to really add to the game plan and give your quarterback an opportunity to do more things.
Yeah, you watch Skyler and you see his ceiling. It's not a very high ceiling. So you want something a little bit more than that. I'm sure he's a nice player and all, but I just like if it's not Cade, try to go Shea, but try to develop. If not, Shea's not going to want to sit. He's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I believe that. Listen, they're going to have a really hard time keeping Shea Smith, especially if they're only going to be using him in wildcat spots and nothing else. He'll go find another school because, again, his dad is Paul. I know he played in the NFL, played at UTEP. He was critical of a lot of things for the game experience at UTEP, and you know that if he decides to get involved for his son, there's going to be a lot of schools calling after him this season.
Yeah, and think about his just recruiting process through high school. He had like Power 4 offers from teams like SMU. Texas Tech loved Shea Smith. Mm-hmm. So, you know, even from the Shea Smith camp right now, Steve, you think they're watching Skyler Locklear and wondering, well, what about having this guy? What about having Shea go out there and attempt some passes and just see what he has out there if they're experimenting at the quarterback spot?
Sure. Appreciate it, Joel. Let me go to Eddie in Fort Bliss. Then we'll wrap things up with this segment. 20 in front of 5 right now as we continue. 505-6009 to get you into Sports Talk. What's going on, Eddie?
Not much, Steve. I just got a quick thought. Definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results, right?
Well, I've always described UTEP football as Groundhog Day, so that's kind of my that is kind of my my take on that. But yes, that's true.
Now, let's revisit something from a week and a half ago with the comments from the Southern Utah coach. You know, I believe what he was saying with a couple of things. Are we more mad because he said them or because they were true? For example, he's right. The cover was just about bare. So when they bring in all the players through the transfer portal, he really has to go ahead and rebuild something.
Yep.
So I'll give him that. The second thing, before I got stationed here, I couldn't pick out El Paso on a map. If it wasn't for Marty Robbins, I wouldn't have known El Paso existed. So when he said it's that fine southern destination, okay, let's look past that. Because most people can't pick it out on a map, don't you think that hurts recruiting a lot?
Listen, there's no doubt. El Paso and you recruiting UTEP has always been a challenge. No matter how good you are, it's always been a challenge. And by the way, you're talking about Delane Fitzgerald. He's the head coach of Southern Utah. And if you listen to his entire interview, it was like 8 minutes long talking about UTEP. He was complimentary when he had compliments for Scotty Walden and his staff. Talked about how he liked them. Talked about the players. But understand this though, Eddie. There were a lot of guys on this roster that were not asked back. Okay? It wasn't like they all just left the program and decided that they were going to go elsewhere. A lot of the guys that were being built these last couple of years were told to go find another place to play. So there are some that left. There's no doubt about that, and that's fair and that's true. But after spring ball, a lot of the guys that are not on that roster that played in the spring were told not to come back.
And a lot of people don't understand that when you get a scholarship, it's not a 4-year ride. It is a year-to-year issue. So
yes and no. Okay,
that.
So you're right. That is, from the definition, that's correct. However, if as a coach you make it a year-to-year thing, you will have a reputation of doing that. Word will get out, and you're going to have a very difficult time recruiting if your reputation is that you get rid of a lot of guys every year.
I totally agree with you, sir.
Appreciate you, Eddie. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, I would say one of the parts to that on the recruitment side to all of this, they did a great job of getting the recent class, 2024. They had a lot of momentum.
Yep.
Number one class by Rivals, number one class by 247 Sports. The big thing that I want to see is 2025. How do they keep the momentum going if they don't have success on the field? And next week's a bye week, right? You assume a lot of these coaches are going to be traveling and recruiting. What do they sell the program on at this point? Like, the excitement that they've had so far, sure. But losing to an FCS school and also starting 0-3, maybe 0-4 by next week, we'll see what happens.
And by the way, I mean, you look at the depth chart, Luca Matamoros as their starter on right tackle, he's a true freshman.
Yes.
He is a 6'5", 275-pound true freshman from Pflugerville. So that's impressive when a true freshman can become a starter for you his true freshman season. On the defensive side of the ball, Jalen Jones, true freshman from Beaumont, Texas, and Westbrook High School. He's your backup defensive end to Mo Westmoreland, who's probably going to be starting next year after Mo's gone. You also have a backup Mike linebacker in Stratton Schufelt from Rio Rancho, player of the year in Albuquerque. He's seeing a lot of time right now. So there are guys from that number one recruiting class that are either starting or backups on the two deep after 3 games.
Yeah, we talked to Kyron Duhan today, who's emerged onto the scene on the D-line. He's like a third stringer, but he still gets a lot of playing time, Steve. I love what he's brought to the table so far. So I like that recruiting class that you're talking about right there, the true freshmen who are getting an opportunity to play. But at what point do we see more of these younger players versus some of the older guys who've been through the process, whether it was at Austin Peay or at UTEP, and want to continue to play here?
Well, the question is also, I mean, think about this. Do you want to ruin a redshirt year for some of these guys? Because you say, at what point do you want to see them? Maybe you don't. Maybe the answer is preserve their redshirt, let them play their 3 games, and that's it. And that way you don't blow a redshirt on some of these guys.
Yeah, I'm curious. What do they do with Shea Smith in that regard? He's already played 2 games out of the 3. So do you play him for 2 more and then put the redshirt on him? With Kyron Duhan, he's played all 3 of these games. So I'm assuming he's not going to get the redshirt, but I'm curious to see, is this case by case, or how they sort this all out?
15 in front of 5. Back with more Sports Talk as we continue. 600 ESPN El Paso. That is our telephone number. That's 505-6009. If you love dining deals, I've got a great one for you this week, folks. Tony's The Pit Barbecue. A place that takes me back to when I was a kid. I just moved here in the late 70s. Used to go to work with my dad downtown when he was working in the old El Paso National Bank building. And he would take me to lunch to Tony's. And it's still there. Same great location, 1700 Myrtle Avenue. In fact, when I went to Tony's The Pit Barbecue recently and had a barbecue sandwich, It tasted exactly like I remembered when I was a kid. I love that. I love restaurants that take me back to those days and know that they haven't changed their recipes, they haven't changed a thing, and why should they? It's the same family. The Vargas family's been running Tony's ever since Tony Sr. opened it in 1958. We've got Tony Jr., we've got 3 generations. His daughters are helping out. Tony's the Pit Barbecue, Adrian, some of the best smoked barbecue in town. We've got it this week for dining deals.
Yeah, it's a great dining deals that we are debuting here on the show. I'm so excited for any time that we get a chance to talk barbecue, especially Tony's the Pit Barbecue. I mean, it's a great, I was just actually out in at the Chamizal to play some basketball not too long ago. I was like really hungry afterward, thinking I need some barbecue. I stopped by, man. I got 2 burritos. This is like, basically God's gift to the earth right here in Tony's the Pit Barbecue. But what makes it so special is the sauce, that special barbecue sauce that you can add on top of it. Just really, really seals the deal for me.
Whether it's barbecue brisket, pork, chicken breast, sausage, ham, they even have their signature hash and their chili bowls. Check it out, folks. Everything at Tony's the Pit Barbecue is homemade, and they deliver all over town. And this Friday, dining deals, $50 to Tony's the Pit for $25. Oh, I'm excited. Michael Plundo is calling in to end the hour from Lubbock, Texas. How are things right now in Techland?
Everything's going good, Steve. It was a crazy first couple weeks getting moved into my new townhome, getting, sorted with classes, but everything's kind of settled down and just good to, be back up here with my friends and get to see some Red Raider football.
I like the fact that you just flexed and said not an apartment or a dorm, a townhome.
Wow.
Look at you go.
The junior in full effect.
That is. Next thing you know, I'll call next year and say, listen, guys, took a couple of extra weeks this year. My mansion took longer than expected, but man, oh, man, it's nice. It overlooks the whole city.
Hey, I'm an honest guy, so I just had to, I want to keep it truthful here.
First off, Plundomania is still running wild all over town. Everybody loves you. How's the home game against Arizona State going to be this weekend? Do you think that Tech can pull it off?
I'm actually very sad that I don't get to work this game with Raider Vision. I unfortunately couldn't get a spot, but that's okay because I think I'm going to work the next one against Cincinnati. But I'm glad I get to go to this one as a fan. But to answer your question, Steve, I think it's going to be a dogfight, but I think it's really going to come down to our defense because our defense is very questionable through 3 games. Secondary hasn't been there. The run D has been an Achilles heel so far, so it's just going to come down to if this defense can step up.
Well, I'm telling you, we're looking forward to it, Michael. By the way, congratulations on the Steelers so far this season. They've had a couple of dubs under their belt, which I know got to make you excited, right?
Of course. This defense looks really good. 1 touchdown allowed through 2 games. I'm very excited to see how they're going to play the rest of the season. The offense, though, got to step it up. I know it's Fields right now, but, no excuses right now,
That's right.
You got George Pickens to throw to. You got a new offensive coordinator, new offensive line, so you just got to get better in the passing game.
Great to hear your voice, Michael. Thanks for the time, and thanks for wrapping us up in hour 1 of the show.
Absolutely. Good to talk to you guys.
The great Michael Plundo with us here as Sports Talk continues. We've got Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl Watch and Bernie Olivas coming up next right here. Stay with us, 600 ESPN El Paso.
Influence and Adrian Broadus.
Start of hour number 2 here on Sports Talk. Welcome back, everybody, as we continue. We also have Alberto Urueta with us, Sebastian Perez Novato with us. Michael Plundo just called in. Now we've got Bernie Olivas and our Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl Watch segment. Now we are 3 weeks into the season. Welcome back. Great to see you. And more than anything, we're starting to get a little bit of a picture about what's happening in college football. Like Florida State might never win a game this year. Bernie, who would have expected it?
That's the biggest surprise of the college football season right now because, they start out 10th. I understand there's only the second team ever to be ranked in the top 10 and lose their first 3 games.
And they're just, Memphis blew them out.
Yes. Yeah, of course, Memphis is not a bad team, but still,
No.
it's still, an FBS school. And, again, FCS school, should I say, and that is a huge, huge surprise. But overall, our two conferences are still doing all right.
Yes, they are.
Always looking to see how the ACC, the Pac-12 is going, because that's who's going to fill up our Sun Bowl Stadium again on December 31st. So looking good. Like I said, this week a lot of good games. As far as our picks are concerned, I had a hard time picking winners this week. But we'll get through it.
You picked well last week. You went 7 out of 10. In fact, you had the best, most accurate picks of the three of us.
Well, like I said, I was still not happy. Anything below 8 I'm not happy with.
Oof! Wow, high standards.
Yes,
High standards for Bernie, folks.
Yes, anything below 8 is not good. But
well,
fortunately for me, you guys had a little rougher week than I did.
I was going to say, if 8 is your standard, Adrian shouldn't even be playing in this contest if that's the case.
I might be voted off. We might have to play new rules where I'm voted off one year if I keep this losing streak going.
Now let me say this: I went from 7 out of 10 to 8 out of 10 to 6 out of 10. I had a bad week last week. I didn't like the games. I didn't feel comfortable, and man, it was tough for me. Adrian, you started the season off in very good shape. Talk about week to week how things have gone for you.
I was 8 first week, and I was talking a ton of trash, especially I was talking to Bernie Olivas about how I was going to run away with it this year. Second week wasn't that great. I'm not going to lie to you, Steve. I was very disappointed in how I showed up week 2. I had 6 points, 6 out of 10. Last week I threw a lot of Hail Marys, and I would say I had 3 interceptions before halftime if you had to mark my performance from last week. So 4 out of 10 this past week.
Man, that
I can't believe you made me say this on air.
That chicken sandwich is tasting really good about now, Adrian. It really is. So okay.
Well, the good thing is the ACC still has 7 undefeated teams. Going from this weekend.
They do.
And the Pac-12 legacy, everybody who's in all kinds of conferences over there from the Pac-12, which we will be able to pick from, they still have 5 undefeated teams. So they're still doing well. Like I said, we always want them to win their non-conference games so that when they get the conference, somebody's going to get beat up during conference. So, but if they go into conference play undefeated, means we'll maybe get an 8-win team here, possibly a 9-win team here, and definitely a 7-win team here. So it's getting exciting. A lot of football games, a lot of games coming down to the wire, and we're excited about this.
Would you like to welcome our celebrity guest picker to the show for this week's Chick-fil-A Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl Selectum contest?
Oh, absolutely. Last week we had UTEP's SID and Drew Bonnie.
Yep.
Bonnie, and I thought we'd go, a little across the state line and go to New Mexico State's SID and get Michael Navarrete to come out here. And thank you, Michael, for joining us. We have a lot of fun with this, and see if you can beat. I didn't see what Drew did this last weekend, but maybe Michael will try to beat. Bonnie on this one.
Well, let's hope so. And by the way, Michael, you've got El Paso roots. I think it's important to note that as well.
For having me, that was actually going to be the first question I started with. Was what did Drew do last week? 'Cause I don't think I'm gonna catch Bernie with his 8, but as long as I do better than Drew, we'll be all right.
We'll work on that. I know, look, every week Bernie writes down the picks. So we will go back and try to figure out exactly how many Drew got right, and then we'll relay that to you so you know where what you have to beat, okay? We'll give you that heads up next time. All right. Are you ready to start? Have you seen the games this week, Michael? Are you familiar with them?
I saw the games. I'll be honest. We get so locked into what we're doing here that I don't have as much opportunity to watch some games that happen on Saturday. Maybe I'm watching, but I'm not really paying attention. So I had to do a little bit of research, but I think I have a good idea of the guys I like. There's some coin flips for sure.
Good.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
I think there's a lot of coin flips today today's weeks. I had a hard time. It took me a long time to figure this one out.
Well, good. Let's get started then. We'll begin our first game with Friday night, 5:30 on ESPN. It's going to be Stanford visiting Syracuse and the JMA Wireless Dome. Stanford's 1-1 on the season. Syracuse is 2-0. This is an ACC league game now, and Syracuse, Michael, you'll have honors to start us off. 9-point favorites. We don't need the win against the spread. We just like to give you the line just for information purposes only. Who do you like to win Stanford-Syracuse to start us off?
I like the Syracuse, the Orange. Both teams are coming off a bye, so they should be well rested and well prepared. But Syracuse at home, they're tough to beat, and I think that place is going to be rocking. So I think that the Ohio State transfer, Kyle McCord, he's going to sling the ball, and they'll win.
All right, Syracuse it is. What about you, Bern?
I agree. I agree with him. Stanford a few years ago was really at the top of the pack, and Syracuse couldn't win a football game. That thing is reversed now. I'm going with Syracuse as well at home.
All right, so far 2 for Syracuse. Adrian, your turn.
No question about it. Kyle McCord, man, rare. He goes from Ohio State to Syracuse and is absolutely killing it with the orange right now. Give me Syracuse in this one.
Then we're 4 for 4 because I'm also going Syracuse over Stanford and think the Cuse will improve to 3-0 on the season. All right, so we go from that game to another ACC conference matchup with North Carolina State visiting number 21 Clemson. North Carolina State's 2-1. Clemson is 1-1. This is their league opener for both. It's going to be at Memorial Stadium in Clemson, South Carolina, and the Tigers, Bernie, 20-point favorites.
Yeah, I think I love NC State. I really do. I love Coach Dorn. And I think they're going to have a great year, but I don't think they can go down. I don't think they can go down to Clemson and beat them. I'm going with the Tigers.
All right, Adrian, your turn.
I like NC State a little bit more than you this week, Bernie. Dave Doran, I like him as a head coach. Give me the Wolfpack. I haven't seen anything from Clemson this year. Beat Appalachian State. Who cares? Give me NC State in this game.
All right, I'm going to go Clemson too. Cade Klubnik's thrown 5 touchdowns this season to just 1 pick. He is one of the better quarterbacks in the country, and I think Clemson bounces back with a big win over NC State. Michael, what about you?
Closer than people think. I think that 20-point number is a big number, but I think Clemson pulls it out at home.
All right, so Adrian, once again, trying to make up some ground this week. We'll see how you do as we go to game number 3. In fact, Adrian, you'll lead us off on this one with a battle of ranked teams. Number 11, USC, 2-0 in the Big Ten, visiting number 18, Michigan, 2-1 in the overall. This is their conference opener from Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor. USC, Adrian, 6-point road favorites.
This is Miller Moss versus Alex Orji. Orji making his first start with Michigan this week. It won't matter. Miller Moss is going to do it to him. I like USC on the road in this one. Number 11, give me the Trojans.
Yeah, we are in agreement there. I'm with you on Moss and USC. They got a really good football team, and although Michigan has a lot of high hopes, those hopes were dashed by Texas, and I think this will be another tough one for them. As Michael, I'll take USC to win on the road. What about you?
Research, and aside from the COVID year, you got to go back to 2017 to find the last time that Michigan lost 2 games at home in a single season. But I think that streak ends this year, and USC gets it done. I think Miller Moss is the real deal, and they'll find a way to score a lot of points.
All right, so far 3 for 3 going USC with a road win over Michigan. What about you, Bernie?
It is hard to go into Michigan and win in the big house. But Southern Cal's going to do it this weekend. So I'm going with Southern Cal.
Okay, we're all in agreement, which takes us to our 4th game of the day. That's going to be undefeated Arizona State. They're 3-0 overall, meeting 2-1 Texas Tech. This game again at Jones AT&T Stadium in Lubbock. So far, so good. It's been a good run for really both teams for that matter. Texas Tech's only loss this season came at Washington State when Wazoo beat them pretty convincingly, 37-16. They've got wins over Abilene Christian, and they've got wins over North Texas. Meanwhile, as far as Arizona State goes, they have defeated Wyoming, Mississippi State, and then that thriller last week at Texas State. That's a good Texas State football team. We know that. So the Sun Devils right now are undefeated, yet Texas Tech 3-point home favorites in this one. Listen, Texas Tech's offense is fun to watch, as they always are. In fact, Morton's been terrific. He's thrown for almost 1,000 yards in 3 games with 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. However, I'm a believer in Arizona State. I love the way I love their schedule early on. They're tested going into this game. They've played good opponents. I think they're going to go into Lubbock and beat the Red Raiders. Michael, give me Arizona State on the road.
Agreement with you there. I think it depends on what Texas Tech team shows up. But I think Arizona State's defense is really good. They're holding teams to less than 20 points a game, so I think that that firepower that Texas Tech has won't be on full display, and Sun Devils will get it done.
Bernie, your turn.
Well, I think they are going to get it done. I'm going to go with the home team, Texas Tech Raiders. I hate going against our Pac-12 and our ACC schools when they're playing a different opponent, but I just think Texas Tech. I'm taking the Red Raiders.
All right, Adrian, your turn.
Head coach Kenny Dillingham in town this past weekend to watch Del Valle quarterback and sensational prospect Jake Fetty. Just for the fact that he came to El Paso and watched that player here in town, give me Arizona State, who moves to 4-0 after this weekend.
All right, 4 down, 6 to go. We'll get you our final 6 picks when we come back after the break. But first, let's give somebody a chance to win a pair of tickets to the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl game on 31st of December, New Year's Day. It's a noon kickoff on CBS. We'll also have it for you right here on 600 ESPN El Paso like we have the last few years on radio. Bernie, what do you have for a trivia quiz today?
Always love giving away tickets to the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, and this one is, I think this is another one. It's a pretty good one that old Jay Pritchett, our marketing director, came up with. And like I said, he always tests me when he comes with one, and I just couldn't pick this one. I couldn't guess this one. But for 2 tickets to the Tony Tiger Sun Bowl game, who was the first player to win both the C.M. Hendricks Most Valuable Player Award and the John Fulmer Most Valuable Special Teams Player Award in the same game? Who's the first player to win both the Special Teams Player and the Most Valuable Player in the same game?
Can I ask you a question before we get the winner? Has this ever happened since, or is this the only time in the history of the game this has actually happened?
I believe this is the only time this has ever happened.
Love it. All right, 505-6009. First one with the correct answer wins the tickets. As we send it over to Charlie 1, let's get this traffic update.
Your question last year is how many coaches coaching the Sun Bowl have won national championships? I think we were up to 7. Which is a pretty good number. Yeah. Just to go to show you the talent and the talent that we get here in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl game, and I think that's one of the reasons that we've lasted for so long. We've got some great matchups, great players, great coaches. Like I said, we had a Heisman Trophy winner, another Heisman Trophy winner who played here in the Sun Bowl just last year. So again, I hope everybody goes out and buys their tickets. Gets your tickets and get them early, and let's just fill up that stadium. You never know who you're going to be watching.
Well put. All right, are we ready to jump back now that we got a trivia winner and we're ready to go? We're 4 games in, 6 to go for our Chick-fil-A Sun Bowl, Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl Selectum contest with special guest picker Michael Navarrete, who is the football contact and football. What are you known as now? What's the official title? You know, it's evolved so much. It used to be SID.
Yeah, it's not SID anymore.
Michael, what are you considered now at New Mexico State?
I guess the official title is the Director of Media Relations.
That's it.
Oh, nice.
But that's just a lot of other duties as assigned, is all that means.
I like it. Director of Media Relations. All right. And football, how many sports do you have besides football?
I've got also golf, men's and women's golf, and then I also handle our swim and dive team and pitch in wherever I need. You know, we hosted a volleyball tournament last week. We got some more volleyball this weekend. So, a little bit of everything.
Hey, you need to get Adrian and myself on the golf course playing at New Mexico State. Never been, but I've heard amazing things over the years.
You've never played at
Yes,
New Mexico
sir.
State?
Never played New Mexico
neither,
State,
guys. And
No.
I love that. I love golf.
You know they've held NCAA championships there.
You trying to rub it in?
Yeah.
You
I
do?
can't
Is that what you're doing? You trying to rub it in?
I can't believe you haven't played.
Well, I'm not a big shot bowl rep like you that basically can just make a phone call and the next thing you know you're playing there. It doesn't work like that.
I think I was 13 years old, and the first golf course that I ever stepped foot on was at New Mexico State.
Oh my God, that's
My brother was going to school there. My brother was a quarterback there, and he took me up there to play up there. It's a beautiful golf course.
So you played golf at 13?
I think that was the very first time I ever stepped on a golf course.
Unbelievable. All right. Love it. All right, guys. We're going to get right back to it. Let's do it with the 1:30 Saturday game on ESPN2. It's number 19, Louisville, hosting Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech is 3-1, 1-1 in the ACC. Louisville is undefeated, 2-0. It's going to be their first ACC game. Michael, we're back with you with the Cardinals, 10.5-point favorites.
Yeah, give me Louisville in this one. They just beat a really good Jacksonville State team that we're pretty familiar with here at New Mexico State, and so I think they looked pretty good last week, and they're going to look good again this week.
All right. What about you, Bernie?
At home, Louisville.
All right, Adrian.
So I always say Louisville. So you guys got to start calling me out on this. It's Louisville, and I'm taking them in this game.
Good. I'm taking Louisville as well. In fact, I used to think it was like you, Louisville, and then my wife went there, and she was very quick to tell me after the business trip, no, it's Louisville, Steve. So I said, okay, I'm going to call it Louisville.
UTEP plays Louisville in basketball this year.
They sure do. All right, here we go. We're at the midway point with this next game right now, and that's going to be Rutgers visiting Virginia Tech. Rutgers is undefeated at 2-0. Virginia Tech is 2-1. It's in Blacksburg, Bernie, and Va Tech 3.5-point favorites at home.
3.5-point favorites. It's good. I had a really hard time deciding who was going to win this game here or who to pick anyway, but I'm going to stick with the ACC. I'm going Virginia Tech at home.
Okay. Adrian, your turn.
I'll agree. I mean, Virginia Tech's played some real teams. Rutgers, they beat Akron and Howard. So give me Virginia Tech.
I'm going Rutgers. I want to see. Listen, I was excited about Virginia Tech this season. I'm not going to lie to you. I was. And then I watched them, fall. They faltered earlier this season. And makes me wonder, they lost to Vanderbilt by 7. So I don't really know what to expect after a 31-14 win over Marshall and a 37-17 win over Old Dominion, a couple of CUSA leftovers that went to other conferences. So I'll go Rutgers with the win, Michael. What about you?
I'm going to go against you and go with the other guys. I'm going to take Virginia Tech. I think their quarterback, Kyron Jones, is just too athletic, and Rutgers won't have the athletes to contend with him, cross from sideline to sideline.
All right, that gets us right back into it, and another good one coming up as we get a chance to talk about Utah, as they are in the top 10, and the top 15, I think, right now. Utah checks in at, let me see, what number are
Number
they?
12.
Number 12, thank you. Okay, so it's going to be Utah visiting Oklahoma State, 12 against 14. Utah's 3-0. Oklahoma State is 3-0. It's the Big 12 debut for both teams, and Utah 2-point road favorites in this one, guys. And I believe now, Adrian, you start us off on this one.
All right, I will take Cam Rising, number 12 Utah. I called them a college football playoff team earlier this year. I'll stick to that. I think they're going to go to the college football playoff and be the Big 12's representation. Give me Utah in this matchup.
I am an Alan Bowman fan. I like what he does at OK State. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks you don't know a lot about. You'll hear his name this weekend, and he's going to get it done. Utah will lose for the first time against a very tough place to play in Stillwater. I'll take OK State, Michael.
Yeah, I think I saw Cam Rising got banged up last week, and I think Oklahoma State, that is one of the hardest places to play in the country. It's going to be raucous, and so I'll take the Cowboys.
All right, Bernie.
And I agree with you. It's a very, very difficult place to play, but I'm a big Coach Willingham fan, a big fan of their defense. I'm going with Utah on the road.
All right, that takes us now to our. Let's see. This would be our 8th game of the week. It's Cal and Florida State. Cal's 3-0. Florida State's 0-3. Simply put, it's been a rough season for Florida State, and despite all of that, they are 2-point favorites at home in Tallahassee over Cal. The question is this: will it get better for Florida State, or will it continue to be a miserable, miserable season? I say it's going to be miserable. I'm going Cal to win this one on the road. Keep Florida State winless. Cal beat Auburn this year. That was a big win. I think they also have a win over San Diego State. I'll take the Golden Bears, Michael, in the shocker, keeping Florida State winless.
Yeah, I think my gut, everything about it tells you to take Cal because Florida State just has not done anything good on either side of the ball. But that is such a long road trip, and it's going to be so hard to win there. So I don't know why, but I'm going to take Florida State.
All right. What about you, Bernie?
Somebody who starts out the season ranked 10th, they have to have been good. They have to have something. Everybody thought they had something.
No.
All right?
It's a sham. The whole thing is a sham.
But for them to lose 4 in a row would be very difficult, especially at home. So I'm taking Cal.
That's good. I love that. That's thank you, Bernie. I like the reversal at the very end. Adrian, your turn.
DJ, good stuff, Bernie. DJ Uyangalele was getting all these memes that he was going to be working at, like Cane's, Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, all this crazy stuff. I'm thinking to myself, let's pump the brakes. Give me Florida State in this one. They're not losing to Cal.
All right. We hit the bottom of the hour. We got 2 games left to go. We'll finish it up right after Michael Plundo. Michael Plundo. See, I have Plundo on the mic because he called in earlier on the program from Tech.
You're used to saying that.
I am. No, we've got Sebastian Perez Navarro. It's SPN. He's back with his Sports Center update. Continue right now, 33 past the hour. Michael Navarrete, the Media Relations Director for New Mexico State, joining us here. We're talking all of our games. We've got 8 down, 2 to go. Let's get right to it with Michigan State visiting Boston College. This one's going to be in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts at Alumni Stadium. So far, so good for Michigan State. They're undefeated 3-0. BC, though, 2-1, but they've looked good this year. That's why right now, Michael, they are a 6.5-point home favorite over the Spartans.
Yeah, I'm going to take the chalk there. I think Boston College is just too physical for Michigan State this year. They're rushing for over 200 yards a game, and so I think they'll be able to control the pace and take the win.
All right, Bernie.
This was a very difficult one for me to pick. But I've been to Boston College a couple of times, and they've laid an egg both times I've seen them there at home, but not today or not this week. I'm taking Boston College.
All right, your turn, Adrian.
Give me in this matchup Michigan State on the road, just because you guys all picked Boston College, so I got to be a little different. I got to make some separation here.
All right, I will agree with everybody but Adrian, and I will take BC at home as well. So I think they improve to 3-1 on the season, and Michigan State will lose their first game of the year, which takes us to our final game of the week: Purdue and Oregon State. Purdue's 1-1. Oregon State's 2-1. It's in Corvallis, and Oregon State 4.5-point home favorites. Bernie.
Again, I think it's a long way for Purdue to go to play a football game up in the Northwest, and I'm going with Oregon State.
Oregon State, your turn, Adrian.
Yeah, I'm going Oregon State, the Beavers as well. I know it wasn't a great week for them last week, but give me them this week.
I'll agree with the two of you. I think they bounce back from that performance against Oregon, and they show Purdue that they can recover. What about you, Michael?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you guys too. I think they had a bad week, but Purdue had a worse week last week, so I'll take the Beavers.
All right, Michael, we'll stay with you on the tiebreaker. I need the total number of points scored during the USC-Michigan game this weekend.
Give me 51 right there. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think USC gets over 30, and Michigan will help them out.
All right, 51, Bernie.
I'm going a little bit higher than that. I think it's going to be a little bit higher to score. I'm going 59.
59, Adrian.
I already saved the picks, and I have 60, so I'll go with 60.
Then I guess I am the low man on the totem pole. I'm going 45 this week as the tiebreaker. 45 for USC and Michigan, which wraps up another week here. Our week 4 of the Chick-fil-A Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl Selectum contest. Michael, do you feel good about your picks this week?
I feel pretty good. I might have went a little bit too chalk. I think I needed to go against the grain a little bit more, but we'll see what happens.
I'm excited for it. Bernie, any thoughts on Michael before we wrap it up with him?
Oh, like I said, I hope the Aggies get back on track, and as well as I want to hope Miners get back on track as well. We, I always root for the hometowns and the home teams, but of course, when New Mexico State's not playing UTEP, I'll root for them. But like I said, Miners need to turn around and get something going. And what a great week to do it this week.
I'm excited about this game for the Aggies. They play Sam Houston on the road. Sam Houston, by the way, 16.5-point favorites. Michael, they have been one of the early stories of Conference USA so far.
Yeah, I think a lot of people outside of Conference USA seen or surprised. We're not really surprised that they're good. They're well coached. They have a new quarterback. He's a dual threat guy. I think it's gonna be a fun one to watch on Saturday. Our guys are prepared. They've been working hard. We put last week behind us, and it's on to the next one.
Michael, appreciate you joining us this week. Thanks so much for the time.
Yep, thanks for having me.
You got it. That's Michael Navarrete joining us. Bernie, before we wrap it up, we found out just a few days ago that 4 Mountain West teams are going to be moving to the Pac-2, now making it the Pac-6, soon to continue to grow. So now Oregon State and Washington State will have Fresno State. They will have San Diego State. They will have Boise State. And they will have Colorado State. There's rumors UNLV and Nevada could go. There's rumors that some of the AAC schools could be looking to head over. Maybe Tulane and Memphis possibly. What are you hearing right now, if anything, as far as how the Pac is going to resurrect themselves?
Pretty much what you just said. Air Force has been talked about as well.
To the AAC.
Yes, as well. But I think the Pac wanted him as well. But I don't think they're going to get him. I think they're going to go to the AAC. But, everything that you just said is exactly what I've heard. Of course, they need 8 teams to be a conference, so they're still going to be looking for 2 more. To be a conference. Those are the rules. So we'll see what happens. And interesting. I'm just wondering if they take those schools, Mountain West. What does that do to UTEP? Could they sneak into the Mountain West, which is something they've coveted for a long time?
Will there be a Mountain West when it's all said and done?
That's
now,
what I'm saying.
Here's the one thing I'll say about the Mountain West guys that's really interesting. Okay, because of all the exit fees. They have $117 million right now, and that's a lot of money to keep your conference together and actually use some of that money to attract quality schools rather than have your league completely fold and disband.
Absolutely. Like I said, college football is still in a little bit of a mess, and it'll straighten out. It'll be straightened out after. I don't think it'll be straightened out until after the 25 season, because that's when all the contracts are up. But yeah, there's a lot of movement, and I think there's going to continue to be some more movement.
Yeah, we still see all these news updates drop like left and right. I don't know how to decipher all this. I think it's interesting that FCS schools are also being talked in the conversation with Mountain West. You could see Sacramento State, maybe even Montana, the Big Sky.
North Dakota State?
Had a ton of success like North Dakota State. So, yeah, most definitely.
Guys, it's $5 million to make the jump from FCS to FBS. What if, as part of the incentive, the Mountain West tells the best football schools in the FCS, we'll cover that for you. You make the commitment and get up to FBS level, we'll take care of that. I mean, there's a lot of really interesting things at play when you look at the landscape of this latest realignment.
Absolutely. And again, and there's a lot of moving parts right now, and there's going to be more before it all settles down. But like I said, for the next couple of years, as far as we're concerned, we still have an ACC, Pac-12 matchup for the next 2 years, and then we'll see what happens after that. I've talked to, having a meeting with the Pac-12 schools in a couple of days, and then, spoken to ACC, spoken to the Big Ten, spoken to Big 12, spoken to everybody. So we're looking forward to the future, but right now we still got a great game coming up on December 31st. Hope everybody comes out and fills up that Sun Bowl Stadium.
Before I wrap it up, you have a great advantage this year and next year, because since so many Pac-12 schools are scattered throughout the leagues, you're talking to everybody. So when the contract is up and it's time to figure out where you're going to go, the relationships are already there. They've been there for years anyway, and it almost makes it easier for you to plot your next move when it comes to what the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl would like to do.
Sure, we have some great relationships with a lot of schools, and when they start building up relationships with the other schools from the other conferences as well. Like I said, Oregon State and Washington State have been tremendous partners of the Sun Bowl. Both of them have been here several times. They're great partners, but we'll see what happens to that conference. The people that are running the Pac-12 right now, and Merton Hanks does a fantastic job, great guy, but so are the conferences. So it'll be interesting what happens in a couple of years. But again, it gives us an opportunity right now to go visit a lot of different universities just by following the schools that are going to be in our game the next couple of years.
That's awesome. Bernie, we'll see you next week. Thanks for coming by.
One more thing. I'd like to just like to put a little push to the Peter Piper Pizza Punt, Pass, and Kick Contest.
When is it?
October the 8th.
Oh, it's coming up.
Yes. So go to any Peter Piper Pizza, sign up, and come on out, get a chance to ride in the parade, get tickets to the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, get recognized at the game, come on out and have a good time. And again, it's October 8th at the Sun Bowl Stadium. So come by the office or go online or go to any Peter Piper Pizza location and sign up for the PP&K.
Awesome stuff. Bernie, thanks for the heads up on that. We'll keep reminding people as we get closer.
Thank you very much.
He's Bernie Olivas. That's the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl Watch every single Tuesday at 5 here on 600 ESPN El Paso. Back with more right after this. Our thanks to Bernie. Bernie's got a good week coming up. I'm jealous. He's going to have some fun. Looking forward to that. 505-6009, our telephone number to get into the show. 505-6009 here on Sports Talk. Tua going on IR after the concussion. Really no surprise. In fact, 4 games at least, he's got to get himself squared out. And Tyler Huntley from the Ravens practice squad signed by the Dolphins. Do you think this possibly puts, and I don't know the answer to this question, maybe you do, Adrian. Do you think that the Tua situation could possibly put Gavin Hardison back on the Dolphins practice squad or no?
No, that's a great question, Steve. Gavin Hardison has recently taken a workout with the Chicago Bears.
Really?
So, yes, he might be with the Bears organization, be backing up Caleb Williams or in that system instead of going with Miami. So
wow.
He was not held around during the practice squad session. They kept Skylar Thompson. They believe in fewer quarterbacks. And like you mentioned, it's Tyler Huntley. So, for the Dolphins fans out there, I guess you're going to have to be satisfied with mediocrity right there. I was sad that they didn't go a rookie route like Hardison or anything like that.
Me too. In fact, I think Tyler Huntley has to go on their 53-man roster for at least the next 3 games.
That's correct, yeah, and that gives Huntley some assurance right there. That's good for him. You can't just sign him, then cut him or anything like that. I like that for Huntley. And this is a veteran guy. This is a guy who's won games for even the Baltimore Ravens. So for the Dolphins, maybe they can manage here for the next couple weeks. I just don't know what the future looks like for Tua. I think it's really sad, man. I mean, last year we were talking about it, and this year we're talking about it again?
I know.
How many is it going to take?
How's Andrew Mayer doing out there in Miami? Have you heard?
He's still on the roster.
Yep.
He's still on the team, so he has not been cut as of late. I don't know if he even got some playing time or anything like that. So you got to do some digging on Andrew Mayer.
All right, good stuff as we wind down things here into hour 2 of Sports Talk. A lot of baseball going on. Our third hour right around the corner. Sebastian brought up a great story we should really talk about, and that is the story about what Tennessee is doing to help pay athletes. Taking it onto their season ticket holders and upping the cost by 10% to help pay athletes. I don't expect all of college athletics to do this across the board, but the big schools that can afford to do it, especially with the new legislation that's in place, I would not be surprised one bit if schools take Tennessee's lead and decide to put an increase like that to help cover athletes' costs.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. I think it's the way that everybody stays as competitive as their competition. I mean, that's what it is. Tennessee is trying to say, hey, we have as much money as you do, Florida, as much as you do, Alabama, as much as you do, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, etc. And that's what the reality of college football is nowadays. It's like who has more money than the others.
That's true. And listen, the schools that are selling out, 80, 90, 100,000 season tickets, just imagine what a 10% increase can do across the board when you talk about all that extra money going to athletes.
Could you imagine if Texas did this with their recent turnout for tickets in this year and how difficult it was to even get tickets to the UTSA Texas game?
Well, let me say this. Texas is not hurting for donors to pitch in for NIL. That's the key. I'm actually a little surprised Tennessee is. I figured Tennessee would have no trouble. I figured most Power 4 schools would have no trouble with NIL.
Yeah, Jeremy Pruitt, when they were playing UTEP, he was making, I think, the most money of any active college football coach at the moment. I think that was like 2018, so That's interesting.
All right, 2 down, 1 to go. Dallas Cowboys update top of the hour. We'll come back, and a lot more to get to as Sports Talk continues. Adrian showing Sebastian the ins and outs of producing the show, running the board, showing him how things are going to work, and knowing how fast ESPN picks things up. I expect him to be producing probably by the end of the week. I mean, it doesn't take him long, does it?
No, it doesn't, and you're exactly right there, Steve. For our Crazy Monday shows, maybe you can lend a hand for some production work, so that'd be great.
Might need it for next week. You're going to be doing the show out at the Ale House next Monday for me.
Very true. That's right.
I will be out Monday. Colonoscopy day, everybody. Yes. Can't wait.
How exciting.
Oh, it's going to be a real crappy day, but in a good way. So that's actually Sunday, not Monday, but that's the crappy day. But anyway, things will be okay. It's my first one, by the way. First time for this procedure.
Maybe need some tips from people on Twitter and X, right?
No, I already know what I need to not do and what I need to do.
Alberto laughed there. That was funny.
I'm sure. You listen, you guys are probably 20-plus years away from this, okay? So you're not going to do this until you're probably either 45 or 50. So I'm going to give you one big tip. Stay near the toilet the day before because you got to get all that stuff out so when you go for the procedure, you have nothing in you. So just imagine what that's going to be when you get to take all those fun things in the afternoon to clean yourself out.
Yeah, I'll call you in like 25 years and ask you, give me the best tips there, Steve.
The best tip is do it hopefully once every 10 years. That's the best tip. So, but hey, sometimes you got to do what you have to do. Simple as that. So anyway, Adrian's going to be hosting next Monday. I'm excited for him. It's going to be a great show. And until then, we've got another hour to talk to you here on the Tuesday edition of the program. 505-6009. That is our telephone number, 505-6009. Okay, listen to this. All right, this is interesting. Nobody's talking about this. So we're going to be the first and only ones to do this. You ready? Mountain West lost 4 schools, right? 4 schools. So what does that mean? That means that you have to have a minimum of 6 schools in your conference to play sports. So the Mountain West baseball last year had 7 programs. Air Force, New Mexico, Fresno State, Nevada, San Jose State, UNLV, and San Diego State. They just lost 2 of their 7, which puts them at 5. So they need a baseball school to get back to the minimum of 6. Okay, because they just lost 2 of those 6. So, 2 of those 7. They got to get 1. So here's the question: do you A, look to add a baseball-only school to hit your requirement and not let them play anything else, or if it's between UTEP and New Mexico State, one has a baseball program, the other one doesn't? Could you imagine if they end up taking New Mexico State over UTEP, and it's simply because the Miners do not have a baseball program? It's a crazy hypothetical, and chances are there is no way this would ever happen. But could you imagine if, as they're trying to find replacements, and they decide, you know what, we don't need both. We really only need one of these 2 schools. And if we take UTEP, well, more money, more funds, better attended games, but they don't have a sport that's a core sport for us. The other one does. How crazy would it be if when the smoke clears and this whole thing is done, UTEP is its Conference USA and New Mexico State goes to the Mountain West simply because they can play baseball and hit the minimum number of schools at 6.
A UTEP fan asked me earlier this week, does New Mexico State having baseball make them more appealing and more desirable to the Mountain West compared to UTEP? And
Yes.
answer. Well, here's my thought to this, Steve. What's more appealing to you? A school that is in a city with an airport, or a school that is in the city that has to go 45 minutes away? And I'm not trying to be mean on this. I'm just being honest on that. The travel aspect is huge.
Well, first off, let's just say that UNLV and Nevada stick around in the Mountain West Conference. You still need one more school to play baseball. So you figure that now you could always solve this issue by bringing UTEP and New Mexico State together. One has a baseball program, so you immediately go back to the requirement of 6, and you bring them in together like what's been rumored all along. But it would be wild if not having baseball ends up being something that holds this program back from getting into a conference that fans have been wanting for a long, long time. That would be crazy to think about.
I honestly don't think it's impossible, man. I mean, just to make them more desirable, like New Mexico State having a baseball program, and a successful one for that matter, a program that has sent guys to the major leagues. I mean, guys who have recently been playing for New Mexico State, a la Nick Gonzalez.
Yep.
You just saw him play in the WAC and have a lot of success over there.
Here's another question. What if the Mountain West gets with UTEP and says, look, we want to add you, but we need you to play baseball? Can you add it as a sport?
I would say, hey, I'm excited about the swimming and diving team coming tomorrow to the rec center. That's what I would say, honestly, because it's going to happen. That would just happen.
I mean, Alberto's shaking his head if I brought the baseball scenario up at UTEP. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that they will stay in Conference USA before they would ever consider bringing back baseball if that made them a more desirable program to a Mountain West?
I think it's just a numbers and sense thing. I don't think
is.
Is there numbers? Is there enough money to bring a baseball program immediately? I don't think there is, unfortunately. And I do think it is a deciding factor. All factors are considered when teams are considered for leagues. So, of course, it hurts UTEP they don't have a baseball team.
Let's also bring this up, okay? If UTEP was to go into the Mountain West, the way the conference currently sits at, with their teams remaining, they would still have one of the lowest operating budgets in the league. So they would go from a school that was probably near the top in Conference USA to a school that's at the bottom of the Mountain West. Something else that needs to be brought up.
Yeah, you heard one of the big deciding factors of Sacramento State even being in the conversation was the financial commitment by not just the university, the city of Sacramento. It was reported by the Sacramento Bee, I believe, that the city themselves wants to back Sacramento State to go to the Pac-12. I think that's way too crazy. I think that's ambitious right there. But Sacramento State getting to the Mountain West and committing themselves financially to do it. I mean, we see Sam Houston State do it. We just saw Kennesaw State do it this past year. Jacksonville State, Delaware is going to do it next year, and same with Missouri State. That's not out of the picture.
Even a program like San Jose State that was a laughingstock in the WAC and the Mountain West for so many years, they've resurrected their program because they've put money into it. They've committed to athletics, something they never did years ago. Now, we all know San Jose, California is one of the more expensive places to live. It's right there near Silicon Valley, so you would think that putting money into a program like that with the proximity to San Francisco should not be that difficult. And suddenly, look what happens. You put money into the school and you give them resources, the school's able to turn around and win.
I think there would be a financial commitment by donors and people who would want to donate to UTEP if UTEP was making a move to the Mountain West. I do think that people, if it has even just 4 out of the 8 members who used to be there, 6 out of the 8, whatever it ends up being, I think there will be that desire just to get out of CUSA by people here in El Paso that they would grassroot this if they had to.
Let's read a couple of tweets coming in on Twitter and X. Chris Banks 21. Wouldn't it be great if the Pac just kept 6 teams and rebranded itself as the Six Pack? Think about Six Pack After Dark.
On the CW? Yeah, Six Pack After Dark on the CW. Let's make it happen.
I love it. Augustine weighs in on the show. Wait, he tweets. You think that UTEP's lackluster competitiveness in sports is attractive to the Mountain West? Having teams that lose to FCS teams? Come on. First win, then demand change. Now, Augustine, normally I agree with you on this topic, but let me bring this up. They might not have a choice. They might get to a point where they just need schools in the worst way possible. And knowing that UTEP is already FBS, they're already there, and they already have the ability to just change leagues and move, they could be, despite, as you put it, their lack of competitiveness in athletics the obvious choice, the easy choice to go. It's easier for UTEP than Sacramento State, North Dakota State, Montana State, or all of these FCS teams that would have to overhaul everything just to get in to FBS.
Or even Lynchburg, Virginia, where UTEP just traveled to. I mean, making that trip, man, going to Florida International, none of this makes sense. The fact that you had these conference affiliates for this long is spectacular in itself, right? I mean, these conference mates don't make sense for UTEP. I would rather play these FCS to FBS affiliates in a Mountain West in 2026 and build to something like that than anything that CUSA is offering here in the future.
Well, that's and then that's assuming the Mountain West stays together with its current groups. So let's just picture this for a second, okay? Let's just play the hypothetical game. Air Force goes to the AAC, okay? And after not being able to attract schools it wants, UNLV and Nevada ultimately are part of Wave 2 to the pack. So now you've lost 3 more from the Mountain West. All you have left is New Mexico, Hawaii for football, Utah State, Wyoming, and there's one more I'm missing. Who am I missing?
San Jose?
San Jose State.
Yeah.
Thank you. San Jose State. You have 5 left. New Mexico, Wyoming, San Jose State, Utah State, and what was it?
Yeah, Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Right? Yeah.
For football only. Okay.
Now that's a hard sell.
You don't even have Hawaii for basketball. So that means you have 5, including football, 4 for every other sport.
Okay. Assume Grand Canyon for basketball.
You don't have football, but okay.
Get UTEP and New Mexico State.
All right.
And then add North Dakota State and Sacramento State? Is this what we're kind of saying? I still think it's better than CUSA.
Really?
Yes. Travel alone. Wyoming alone. Wyoming's a better rival for UTEP than any other teams currently in CUSA other than maybe Sam Houston.
Well, you're forgetting the obvious. New Mexico.
Yeah.
New Mexico. Bringing New Mexico, UTEP back would be fun.
Yeah, that's the obvious. That's the slam dunk right there. UTEP going back to the pit. UTEP making the trip up to Albuquerque for football games. That's the obvious.
And then you've got New Mexico State in your conference every year, and you could just, those are fun games, and they're easily well attended and things like that. So, yeah, I get what you're saying, but just think about that league, how watered down that league is. My God, it's brutal.
Yeah, basketball's not getting 5 bids ananymore.
No, you'll be your 1-bid league again, all over again.
It's just the CUSA 2.0. What about a merger?
CUSA West.
Steve. What about a merger? Are we counting that out completely?
Yes, because the Mountain West. Now, here's another thing: if the Mountain West loses UNLV and Nevada, now it has $180 million in their portfolio. So instead of like 117 or 120, now you're at 180. So yes. Even if you're left with 4 or 5 schools, the $180 million can go a long way. Now you could basically cherry pick who you want out of Conference USA. Maybe they bring UTEP. Maybe they bring New Mexico State. Maybe they bring La Tech with them. Who knows where they decide to go? Maybe they bring Sam Houston along for the ride. Nobody knows. So that's what I mean. The Mountain West might buy the schools they want to bring and now shape the league the way they want because they've got all this money.
So you're probably going to see weeknight August Mountain West games because they also have a TV deal to renegotiate as well all throughout this process. I think it's right after the 2025 season. The Mountain West has a new TV deal to negotiate.
This coming in from Augustine on Twitter and X. What is Adrian drinking? No more alcohol for Adrian. What are you listening to yourselves? You're talking about colleges without major sports. Stop it. No, but it's the reality. I don't know if Augustine realizes the situation that these leagues are in right now. I feel like he's not. Maybe he's been in Mexico the last couple of weeks, hasn't seen what's happening right now, and really understanding the landscape where these conferences are currently in. Mountain West, they could, they're right now hoping to keep everything together. And if not, they've got to probably make some changes. The Pac still needs schools. They have to go out and figure out how to finish that conference off. There's more things coming, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later. And whether or not UTEP belongs or deserves, it might not even matter. They might go out of necessity for leagues that need teams more than anything else.
And UTEP makes the most geographic sense in that case, even though these other teams are all on the West Coast and scattered all throughout. But, yeah, UTEP would do it, I think. And I think that they would value the traditions that the Mountain West would still have within their programs, plus the New Mexico and New Mexico State connection that you could establish and continue.
Before we go to Charlie and traffic, let's go to Fernie. He joins us next on the phone lines, 505-6009. Hi, Fernie.
Man, I think we're overvaluing our university, man, UTEP and stuff. I mean, because you still have, the Texas teams, and you got a UTSA, you got Rice, you got North Texas. You got those teams right there.
Yeah, but they're not. Yeah, but Fernie, they're not going to leave the American Athletic and go to the Mountain West. Like, they're in a much better.
So you're contingent. I mean, you're saying that the American Athletic is a better conference than Mountain West, then, right?
It is. It is. I think right now it is. I think that there was a lot of arguments that the Mountain West for basketball was better than the American Athletic when it was full. But now that they just lost San Jose State, Fresno State, Boise State, and Colorado
not
State.
San Jose State.
I'm sorry, not sorry.
Not
I meant San Diego State. San Diego State is 1, Boise's 2, Fresno's 3, and Colorado State's 4. So think about that. San Diego State's been a power.
We're in, man. We're in then, man, because you know what? If the American Athletic is a little bit stronger, I mean, you still got like the Sun Belt. I wish we were in instead, right?
Well, where do you think UTEP's going in? Like, where are they going? You said they're in. Where are they in?
Where do I think, or where do I wish?
No, I know you wish. You probably wish the Mountain West.
Yeah.
What do you
man.
What do
you know what?
Yeah.
But you brought it up. I go, hey, look, with teams like, why do you guys keep on mentioning Nevada, Reno? UNLV obviously because it's Vegas.
They're linked. Fernie, I mentioned them together.
So?
Fernie,
TV market.
So?
They're linked politically. From what I've heard, that's the biggest issue is politics, because I think Nevada's former current president is their former governor or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So he's not.
Okay.
He doesn't want UNLV to leave for the Pac without them going. There's a lot of talk that they're not going to split the two schools up. So that's why I always mention them together.
Well, I mean, we got like UTEP, NMSU, New Mexico, Wyoming, South Dakota State, things like that. North Dakota State. You got San Jose State. I mean, you're talking business aside from maybe trying to get some other teams in there. But Steve, anything's better than Conference USA because it's just so much going towards the East Coast.
Yep.
Or going east that, I mean, it's just not, it just doesn't make sense.
Not to mention, you know what else? You know what else sucks is all these schools from Texas that come into CUSA, they all leave. Have you noticed that? They all get better and they all leave, and they're always leaving UTEP behind.
I mean, because we don't want to, keep on playing Florida International or whatever. And, that's a East Coast team. But you got some other teams here, that we could hook up with and maybe build a somewhat of a rivalry,
Yeah, I can see it. I don't know. Again, I don't know about the Dakotas. I don't know how much of a rivalry you can get with North Dakota and South Dakota State. But at least you bring back some of the schools that you're at least used to. But look, they brought Wyoming in every time for the Sun Bowl tournament. Nobody went. The truth is, that's a former WAC school, and nobody in this town cares about Wyoming. Who do you care about? You care about New Mexico. That's the number one school out of this league. And you know what? People care about UNLV because it's Vegas. That's it. And Nevada to some extent, because there were some good rivalries with Nick Fazekas back in the 90s and 2000s. But, Adrian, for the most part, nobody cares about Wyoming, even though they've been around forever with UTEP as a former WAC rival.
Yeah, it's a good point, and it's a good cleanup by you, because the reality is what you're having to sell yourself as a university for UTEP is this worth it? Is this worth whatever the cost would look like? Is it worth it to our fan base, to our athletics, to be more competitive? UTEP never won a CUSA crown in men's basketball or in football up to this point. So what makes you think that they're going to be more competitive or just as competitive in the Mountain West?
They could be a bottom feeder in the Mountain West. How crazy does that sound?
Could be reality.
You never know. All right. Charlie, I went over. So go ahead, take us through traffic. When we come back, Sebastian will have SportsCenter out of the break. We'll come back with more in a moment right here, 600 ESPN El Paso. Back here on Sports Talk, bottom of the hour as we continue. 505-6009, our telephone number, 505-6009. By the way, we've talked so much about UTEP in the Mountain West and what could happen there. Who goes to the Pac when it's all said and done? They have 6 right now. They need at least 2 more, maybe 4, depending on where they want to grow, or who knows how many. Do you believe that there are schools in the AAC crazy enough to leave that league and go join this new reincarnation of the Pac?
Yes.
You
My
do
answer
think so?
is yes, because of financial reasons. I think that it could be Memphis, it could be UTSA, it could be Tulane, it could be a school that is committed to winning, whatever that looks like, at the AAC level, where they think, wait a second, SMU did it? SMU just kind of got grandfathered into the AAC, or ACC, I should say? How come we can't go to a Power 4 or Power 5 conference like that?
Well, first off, you do understand that this Pac is not going back to the powers.
No, I get it.
They're
But
gonna
they
be
want to
Group
say
5.
that they are.
Well, but it doesn't. But what I'm saying is that they're not going to be considered a Power 4 or a Power 5. They're going to be considered a group of 6 is probably what it's going to be, because the group of 5 is going to add the Pac to their list. So do you really think a school is going to want to spend the money to shift conferences and go to a league that, when it's all said and done, will not be better than what they currently have? In fact, will be worse, because travel costs will be much greater in the Pac than they ever would in the American Athletic. Now, if you're a Texas school, the obvious answer is, well, that's different, because going from Texas to California and to Boise, Idaho, and Colorado is, probably a better trip than going back east, where you got to go play all those schools on the eastern side. But like Memphis, right in the middle, I don't know if it makes any sense for them. And like you said, name only. Well, that's it, name, because who cares about your name if you're not going to be given that automatic invite like the other Power 4 schools?
That's where it all starts, right? That's the big leverage point. That's what they're going to argue and they're going to try to lobby for left and right. You think you want to know who's going to be the first to vote for an expanded college football playoff? And yes, I know what I'm saying. Expanded to 16 teams. You know who's going to be the first at the table is the Pac-12 or whatever this looks like.
Pac-6, yeah.
Yeah, the Pac-6 is going to say, the six-pack is going to say, hey, we want automatic bid. We want this to be us. We want automatically, you don't want to be lumped into the group of 5 and just to be an afterthought there. When you expand to 16, we want a seat at the table. And I don't necessarily think that's right.
Me neither. Colorado State and Fresno State? No. In fact, we already know what's going to happen in a few years. The best teams in the league are just going to separate from everybody else. They're going to form their own super conference, and everybody's going to be left behind. That is where we're going with this. It might take a few years, but ultimately they're going to break apart. They're going to form their own elite super conferences of 2 or 3 teams, or maybe they just put all 60 together. Who knows? And everybody else will be in the next group. And don't think for a minute that these Pac schools are going to have any chance whatsoever to get in on that. They're not. SMU lucked out. They did, because even though the ACC might not be around when it's all said and done, they don't care. They'd rather have a shot at it, since they're currently the 4th the fourth school in the Power Four versus where they were in the AAC.
Yeah, and I would say on the flip side of that, Boise State's probably the most desirable football program, just from top to bottom of this new edition of the Pac-6 or whatever that looks like, just because of the name alone and the success they've had. When you talk about the market, you talk about the location. That's not a desirable spot for Boise, Idaho. I mean, you're talking about selling the masses and basically college football and the College Football Playoff Committee on adding an automatic bid for the Pac-6, whatever, the Pac-12, whatever this looks like. No, it doesn't make sense to me. It's just the name. It's just the money. And that's all this is. This is all greed right here for the Pac-12.
And a gimmick. And a gimmick that's not going to go over with the rest of college football and the rest of college sports. It's just not. So they might make more money than the Mountain West when it's all said and done, just because you've got a couple of original Pac schools in Oregon State and Washington State, and who knows what else they can get. I mean, that's the other question. What do you do if you're UTSA?
Yeah, I mean, they've committed a lot of money.
A ton of money.
And what success have they really had? They've had a lot of excitement. They've had a lot of hype. Do they have the tangible success to back up all the financial commitments they've done?
Well, listen, it's the San Antonio market, and that's a big market, okay?
Yes.
It's a big Texas market. But what I mean is, look, Houston's now in the Big 12. SMU is now in the ACC, okay? So Rice is still in the AAC, and North Texas is in the AAC. But UTSA might look at themselves in a different light than everybody else. Maybe UTSA thinks that they can be like Boise State. Maybe they think that they're the next school on the rise, and they'll go to the Pac and leave the AAC behind because they want to be a part of something new, where even if they're considered a group of five, they'll still feel like maybe they would be considered the top group of five versus the league they're in right now.
Yeah, they would see it as an upgrade for sure. I mean, they were on the same level, same playing field as UTEP. I mean, just basically yesterday it feels like. So for UTSA to make this jump, it is a jump for them. Call it what it is for that school right there. For Boise State, it's a jump for them too. They finally get that recognition to go into a different conference. Again, it's just by title. There's no substance behind it.
All right. Alberto, you've listened to a lot of this. I want to get your take. I want to get Sebastian's take. He hasn't had a chance to talk about this yet. I mean, you tell me. Do you think that when the smoke clears, will the Pac be the most desirable group of five or group of six conferences in college athletics?
Yeah, just because of the history that it carries, right, or the association that it used to have and the teams that were there. And I think that makes it the desirable conference. And UTEP is a lot of people. I've seen people try to coop them up in there in the Pac conferences. Not at all. They're not getting into the Mountain West either. So, yeah, this is a bad road to navigate if you're UTEP because you don't have a lot of success in the past 20 years to show for, and that makes it hard to jump into conferences.
What about you, Sebastian?
Call me crazy here, but I'm going to make the argument that the Pac-12, if they keep adding on solid group of five teams that deserve to be in a power conference, can make it a Power 5 conference again. And I'll back it up. Boise State were BCS busters. They had wins in huge bowl games. Their move to the Power 5 was eminent. You see other teams like Fresno State, who's been dominating the New Mexico Bowl, and other teams that are on the rise. But I think it's those main two, Fresno State and Boise State, which can possibly lead to the argument of the Pac-12 coming back into a power conference. You got to have good bowl representation, obviously, and these teams need to be strong. I don't think Colorado State helped the case necessarily against their new showing against Colorado. But I think if at least half of these new teams are powerful in bowl games, then you can make the argument that the Pac-12 can be at that power conference level again.
I'll just say this, all right? Oregon State and Washington State are the leftovers. They're the schools that nobody wanted. So let's put it that way, right? The reason they're not in the Big 10 or the Big 12 or the ACC, nobody wanted them. So, that being said, they're the founding fathers of this new league. And they're bringing in San Diego State, who could not get into a Power 4. Fresno State, that's never been looked at as a major player. Colorado State, which makes me smile from the old WAC days because I've always looked at them as a below average program as a whole. And Boise State, which intrigues me in football, but not in anything else. And I'll take it a step further. Boise State's academics is the reason they never got into a Power 4 school, because nobody looks at Boise State academically and says that that is a school that should be amongst the top of all the best in college athletics. So you're a one-trick pony. You're a football program only with nothing else to add for athletics or education. So how does that move the needle when you talk about trying to get back to the to the Power 5?
You know, and that makes me even think is like, to the pack, is like a Rice desirable, or like trying to convince a Cal and Stanford to come back, whatever that looks like, and what kind of financial ramifications that would involve to leave the ACC for something that makes more geographic sense to Stanford and Cal, which also hasn't been traditionally strong in anything as far as athletics.
They will never leave a guaranteed spot. Like, let me ask you this. Would you want to be a small fish in a big pond, or a medium-sized fish in a little teeny-weeny pond?
Yeah,
and that's why they're never leaving the ACC, because no chance are they going to go away from a guaranteed Power 4 spot now to going back to being considered a Group of 4 school, a Group of 5.
The reality is, if Cal is 12-1 or 11-1 on the season, they'll get the invite to the CFP. Mm-hmm. But if Oregon State is 11-1, it's an argument. You know, it's a conversation. Do the Beavers get in? Do they have a good strength of schedule and all that kind of stuff? You're right. It's playing for the chance, or hoping for the chance of the automatic bid.
And look what Oregon just did to them.
Yeah, killer. Not even close.
All right, 19 in front of 7 as we continue here on Sports Talk. Sal has arrived. That means Chihuahuas baseball will be coming up a little bit later. 8 o'clock as the Chihuahuas get ready to battle it out with Vegas this week. Tim Haggerty giving us his final week. Does this mean our final story time is later this week?
Wow. How the year flew by.
Unbelievable. We'll wrap it up next right here, 600 ESPN El Paso.